Welcome back to Mystical Kannada, friends. In our last video, we learnt about the Hoysalas of Dorasamudra, and today we shall know more about the Vijayanagara Empire. The Vijayanagara emperors ruled in Vijayanagara Hampi from 1336 to 1646. The most prominent rulers among them were King Bukka I, King Devaraya II, and Raja Shree Krishnadevaraya. Their business language was Kannada and Telugu. Sanskrit, Nagari, Kannada, and Telugu was the language of scripts and inscriptions. The major literary works and authors during their period are Gadugina Bharata by Kumaravyasa, Bharateshwara Vaibhava by Ratnakaravarni, Madura Vijayam by Gangambike, Mohana Tarangini by Haribhaktasara, Dasa Sahitya by Purandaradasa, Manucharitram by Allasani Peddanna, Amukta Malyada by Raja Shree Krishnadevaraya. The Vijayanagara Empire, also called Karnata Kingdom, was based in the Deccan Plateau region in South India. It was established in 1336 by the brothers Harihara I and Bukka I of the Sangama dynasty, the members of the patrolist cowherd community that claimed Yadava lineage. A theory states that Bukka and Hakka were commanders in the army of the Kakatiya king of Warangal. After the king of Warangal was defeated by Muhammad bin Tughlaq, Bukka and his brother were taken prisoners and sent to Delhi. Both were forced to convert to Islam. Bukka and his brother eventually escaped, reconverted to Hinduism under the influence of the sage Vijayanagara, and founded the Vijayanagara Empire. The patron saint of the early kings was Saint Vijayanagara, the 12th Shankaracharya of Sringeri in Karnataka, which is proof enough of their unquestionable identity with the Kannada country. Hampi was the capital city of the magnificent Vijayanagara Empire. The unique title of the emperors of Vijayanagara Kingdom was Hindu Raya Suttana. The foreign travelers Dorte Barbosa and Domingo Pace have praised the empire for its grandeur, trade, and prosperity and described it as the never-forgotten empire. This empire was also known as the wealthiest kingdom in the whole world. The empire reached its peak during the rule of Raja Shree Krishnadevaraya. He was the most powerful and distinguished monarch of the Vijayanagara Empire. Harihara I earned the title of Purva Paschima Samudradishwara, Bhashege Tappada Rayara Ganda, Raja Parameshwara, Ariraya Vibhada, and Vedamarga Sthapanacharya. Bukka I held the title Vedamarga Pravartaka. Harihara II assumed the title of Maharajadiraja and Raja Parameshwara. Devaraya II was called Gajabetegara. Shree Krishnadevaraya earned the titles Kannada Rajya Ramaramana, Andhra Bhoja, Gobrahmana Pratipalaka, Muru Rayara Ganda, and Yavana Rajya Pratishthanacharya. The founders of the empire were devout Shaivas but made grants to Vishnu temples. Their patron saint Vijayanagara was from the Advaita order at Sringeri. The Varaha was the emblem of the empire. The Vijayanagara kings were tolerant of all religions and sects. The kings used titles such as Gobrahmana Pratipalana-charya, meaning protector of cows and Brahmins, that testified to their intention of protecting Hinduism and yet at the same time adopted Islamicist court ceremonies, dress, and political language as reflected in the title Hindu Raya Suratrana, meaning Sultan among Hindu kings. Stone inscriptions were the most common form of documents used on temple walls, boundary of properties, and open places for public display. Another form of documentation was on copper plates that were meant for record keeping. Most Vijayanagara Empire inscriptions recovered so far are in Kannada, Telugu, and Tamil, and a few in Sanskrit. About 7,000 stone inscriptions, half of which are in Kannada, and about 300 copper plates, which are mostly in Sanskrit, have been recovered. The administrative and court languages of the empire were Kannada and Telugu. During the rule of the Vijayanagara Empire, poets, scholars, and philosophers wrote primarily in Kannada, Telugu, and Sanskrit, and also other regional languages such as Tamil, and covered such subjects as religion, biography, prabandha or fiction, music, grammar, poetry, medicine, and mathematics. Some members of the royal family were writers of merit and authored important works such as Madhura Vijayam, also known as Veerakamparaya Charita, by Princess Gangadevi, a daughter-in-law of King Bukka I. King Krishnadevaraya was an accomplished Telugu scholar and wrote the Amukta Malyada, a story of the wedding of the god Vishnu to Andal, and Jambavati Kalyana. Kumaravyasa, the most notable of Brahmin scholars, wrote Gadugina Bharata. Chamarasa wrote Prabhulinga Lile, later translated into Telugu and Tamil. Tirumala Devi wrote Varadambika Parinayam. Ganga Devi, the author of Madhura Vijayam, were among the notable women poets of the Sanskrit language. The rulers of the Vijayanagara Empire maintained the administrative methods developed by their preceders, the Hoysala, Kakatiyas, and Pandya kingdoms. The empire reached its peak during the rule of Raja Shree Krishnadevaraya, when Vijayanagara armies were consistently victorious. The king, the ministry, territory, fort, treasury, military, and ally formed the 7 critical elements that influenced every aspect of governance. The king was the ultimate authority. The empire was among the first in India to use long-range artillery, which were commonly manned by foreign gunners. Army troops were of 2 types: the king's personal army, directly recruited by the empire, and the feudal army under each feudatory. King Krishnadevaraya's personal army consisted of 1 lakh infantry, 20,000 cavalrymen, and over 900 elephants. The whole army numbered over 1.1 million soldiers, with up to 2 million having been recorded, along with a navy led by a Navigada Prabhu, meaning the commander of the navy. The coins were minted using gold, silver, copper, and brass, and their value depended on material weight. Coins were minted by the state in the provinces and by merchant guilds. Foreign currency was in circulation. The highest denomination was the gold varaha or gadyana or honnu, weighing 50.65 to 53 grains. The pratapa was valued at half of varaha. The fanam or hana, an alloy of gold and copper, was the most common currency, valued at a third of the varaha. A tar made of pure silver was a sixth of the fanam, and a chital made of brass was the third of the tar. Haga, Visa, Kasu were also coins of lower denominations. Vijayanagara art includes wall paintings such as the Dashavatara and Girija Kalyana, meaning marriage of Parvati. In the Virupaksha temple at Hampi, the Shiva Purana murals, tales of Shiva, at the Veerabhadra temple at Lepakshi, and those at the Kamakshi and Varadaraja temples at Kanchi. Vijayanagara architecture, according to art critic Percy Brown, is a vibrant combination of blossoming of the Chalukya, Hoysala, Pandya, and Chola styles, idioms that proposed in previous centuries. Its legacy of sculpture, architecture, and painting influenced the development of the arts long after the empire came to an end. Its stylistic hallmark is the ornate pillared Kalyana Mandapa, Vasanta Mandapa, and the Raya Gopura. Artisans use the locally available hard granite because of its durability, since the kingdom was under constant threat of invasion. An open-air theatre of the monuments at its capital at Vijayanagara is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The kings continued to build Vesara or Deccan-style monuments, but later incorporated Dravida-style gopuras to meet their ritualistic needs. The Prasanna Virupaksha temple or the underground temple of Bukka and the Hazare Rama temple of Devaraya are examples of Deccan architecture. The varied and intricate ornamentation of the pillars is a mark of their work. At Hampi, the Vittala and Hazare Rama temples are examples of their pillared Kalyana Mandapa styles. Another element of the Vijayanagara style is the carving and consecration of large monolithics such as the Sasivekalu Ganesha and Kadalekalu Ganesha at Hampi, the Gomateshwara monolith in Karkala, and the Nandi Bull in Lepakshi. The Vijayanagara temples of Kolar, Kanakagiri, Sringeri, and other towns of Karnataka, the temples of Tadipatri, Lepakshi, Ahobilam, Tirumala Venkateshwara temple, and Shree Kalahasti in Andhra Pradesh, and the temples of Vellore, Kumbakonam, Kanchi, and Srirangam in Tamil Nadu are examples of this style. Vijayanagara Empire included Karnataka, Andhra, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu. They ruled for about 310 years. That's about the Vijayanagara Empire. We shall meet in our next video related to the Bahamani Kingdom. Until then, like Kannada, love Kannada, and subscribe Mystical Kannada for lot more interesting videos about Kannada and Karnataka. Sirigannadam Gelge, Sirigannadam Balge.